Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to take a look at our Mythic Soulrender Dormazain kill. My guild managed to kill this about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago from when I'm recording this video. So I wanted to get to the recording really quickly so that I could still have all this stuff fresh in my mind, because there's a lot of stuff you have to think about on this fight. Like the other fights, I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about like overall raid strategy, what you should be doing like to handle certain mechanics, but I will talk about what you should do specifically as a shadow priest to, help yourself handle mechanics easier, right? So let's just get into it. The first thing I'll mention, a lot of people will ask, is it worth playing Misery on this fight, or should I just stick with Twist of Fate? And the answer to that is kind of hard, right? So when we were doing this, when we were progressing on this, I was playing Twist of Fate for the first 20 or so, maybe 22 pulls, and then we killed it after like 26. So for the last 4 pulls or so, I was playing Misery instead. When I was looking at people's logs of like high-end guilds that have killed this before we got here, there were a lot of people playing Misery, but there were also a decent amount playing Twist of Fate, right? And so I was going into people's logs and looking at boss damage specifically, because that's what's important on this fight, especially if you have a Windwalker monk in your group. Like you can see, what we decided to do is we told the Windwalker, you're here to kill the ads, and then we told, I don't remember who the other person was. We had like 3 people who were assigned to killing ads, and everybody else was assigned to focusing the boss. So because of that, Twist of Fate is probably the better choice. But when I was looking through a bunch of the like higher end logs of the people who had killed it before us, many of them were playing Misery, right? So I went in and compared people who were playing Misery to people who were playing Twist of Fate, and compared their boss damage. And the people who played Twist of Fate were definitely a little bit higher on boss damage, but not always, right? There are times where, because Twist of Fate is definitely the best single target talent, right? But Misery gives you, especially with a bunch of ads that live for a long time, Misery will give you a lot of insanity generation, which means that you can funnel more Devouring Plagues into the boss. And we lose very little single target damage when you play Misery instead of Twist of Fate. The most notable part is at the end of the fight, when the boss is sub 35% HP, Twist of Fate will start proccing for people, and they'll do a little bit more boss damage. But also, you have to take into consideration that you're going to be focusing the boss, but then the Overlord is going to spawn every so often, and you need to swap to them. And then you also are going to need to kill the ads at times. Like we kept having issues where the dance would come out and some ads would still be alive, and they'd get like close to the front, and we'd have to turn and focus them from ranged, because all 3 of these are red, let's say, and this one is the only open one. But then all the ads are over here, right? And you have to start hitting them from range. If you're playing Twist of Fate, it can be really rough to try and dot all 3 or 4 of them, right? That's like 8 globals. Whereas if you're playing Misery, it's half as many globals, right? Because you get both dots in one. So yeah, I wasn't sure. I'm still not sure if I made the right choice here. But when I looked at the 4 pulls that I did with Misery versus Twist of Fate, I was averaging around 6.5 to 6.7k DPS boss damage. Whereas with Twist of Fate, I was averaging like maybe 6.6 to 6.8. So it was like really close to each other. And the other thing I'll mention is there are times where your boss damage is going to be a lot higher because you get lucky with crits, and your spell variance lines up nicely and stuff like that, right? So there were times where I was doing 7.3, 7.4k DPS to the boss, but those were pretty rare. So the last thing I'll mention before I actually start the video, sorry about ranting for so long about Misery versus Twist of Fate. You can get a lot of Twist of Fate uptime on this boss because of all the ads. If you just hit one of the ads, what I would do is I would put both dots on Soulrender, both dots on the Overlord, focus the Overlord when it's up, and then when all the ads get gripped in on top of Soulrender, I would just start Mind Searing. And Mind Sear damage to the other ads will count for Twist of Fate procs, and you'll get the increased insanity generation from Mind Sear hitting all those ads, which gives you more single target damage from Devouring Plagues, right? It gives you more Devouring Plagues. So, like I said, I did decide to play Misery here. Not sure if that's the best choice, or that's my thoughts on the Misery versus Twist of Fate debate. So, okay, now let's start the video. So with Misery, I'm going to Vampiric Touch, Fey Guardians, go into my opener, Mindbender, PI, Potion. We Lust on Pull, so we're going to pop everything here, your Potion and everything. This boss fight will take somewhere between like 7 and 8.5 minutes, something like that. So you're going to get 2 damage potions during this fight. So you're going to want to pop one within the first couple minutes of the fight, and then you'll have another one by the end of the fight. But if you're like our guild or like most guilds, you'll just Lust on Pull, and then you'll pop your potion there. You'll also notice I'm playing Sinful Revelation. Again, I think Celestial Guidance is probably better on this fight, just because you can get procs on all the other dudes that give you increased intellect. So I should have swapped for Celestial Guidance, but Sinful Revelation does do a little bit more single target damage, and boss damage is really like all that matters. And then the other thing, you'll notice this Overlord is just spawning right now. We opt to just grip everything on top of the Overlord for the first set of ads. You'll also notice I dotted everything because I'm playing Misery, right? Dotting everything like this means that every time you cast Devouring Plague, Mindbender, or a Void Bolt, you're going to get apparitions going to everything, which is going to give you some insanity for each one that hits, right? So that's the only reason I dotted all this stuff, is not for the damage to it, because that doesn't honestly matter, like at all. You're dotting this stuff just to get increased single target damage from your apparitions. And if you're playing Twist of Fate, if you decide that Twist of Fate is what you want to play on this boss, I did like 20 pulls with it, so you want to either put Vampiric Touch on everything and then just focus on the boss, or you can just like I said, use Mind Sear when stuff is close to the boss to get those Twist of Fate procs. And then we go into one of these Torment things. You need to be very careful on Mythic. These brands do a lot of damage, so you never want to be stuck between 2 of these brands. Even if you have one brand, if the brand is on you, it's going to tick for a decent amount of damage. So you're going to want to watch for like the chains going off at the same time, that kind of thing, and use defensives. But if you're ever without the brand and they're like 2 of them are standing close to each other, you want to be far away, right? So like where all the entire raid is basically over here, away from these brands, that's a safe spot for sure. I'm standing kind of close to them, but that's because when those red things come out, it's easier to do that if you're at the front of the room than the back of the room. So I'm standing up front, and then you can just dodge these things. It's not super hard. So I will mention, sorry to keep pausing, but I will mention for cooldowns on this boss, it's going to be pretty much everything on cooldown, except there are a couple moments where you are going to hold for specific lineups, right? So right here, I just popped my second Void Eruption. That was also my second Mindbender that just finished. I popped Mindbender just barely far enough away from Void Eruption that I don't get any value from it, right? I don't get Mindbender in my Void Eruption at all. And then I popped Fey Guardians pretty soon after going into Void form. And then I'm going to dot all these again, and then probably kick this one if I can. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to dot all of those and then stand near the front for this dance thing, just to be doing single target damage. And then I'm Mind Searing for the increased insanity gen on these guys. I hit one of them with a Shadow Word Death. And then I popped my third Mindbender just now, right about 2 minutes. And that's when I also popped my second Power Infusion. So like I said, you're using Mindbender on cooldown up until now, and Power Infusion on cooldown as well. And then we get into the dance, and the dance makes it hard to use to get good value out of your cooldowns. So we're going to go over to 4 right here. We call this far one 4. But when you're running around, you can't be sitting there casting Mind Blast or anything, right? So you gotta, you know, so like this Void Eruption that's about to come up, I'm gonna hold this. I'm not gonna pop it immediately. Like I could use it right now, but I'm just gonna save it until after the dance is over. So we're gonna run over to this other side, right? And we're gonna run all the way back. And now I'm gonna use my Mind Blast just so that it's on cooldown when I go into Void form, and then I pop Void form, right? So when I was playing Twist of Fate, there were times where I would pop Void Eruption during the dance, but it just felt so bad because you would get the 2 charges of Mind Blast, right? And then you'd have a hard time using them as you're running around. So I definitely think that it's better to just save your Void Eruption. That was my 3rd Void Eruption, I think. You want to save that one for right after the dance finishes is when you want to pop it. I got 10 seconds before my Mind Bender comes up again. And we need to move for this dance thing. So we come over here to the edge. You got to dodge these swirlies on the ground. My Mind Bender is about to come up. It's up now, and I use it immediately. This is right at about 3 minutes, so that's my 4th Mind Bender, I believe. And now this lightning thing over here, that's where the Overlord is going to spawn. The 2 brands need to run in immediately and be standing on top of it. Something that you might be worried about, if you get the brand on you, don't worry about running over other people when you're getting into the Overlord, right? Because it does damage to other people, so you might be like, oh, I can't get in there because there's people in the way. My personal philosophy about that is just run over them anyway. Because it's more important that you get the Overlord killed as soon as possible, especially when you have any of these agonizers within the circle as well. So if they don't want to get hit by your brand, then they need to move. So you just run in and they move. The other thing, once you are in though, melee still wants to be close, so you need to be careful that you don't run in and start doing circles around the thing or whatever. You run in, get on top of the Overlord, and stop moving. Just stand there, and then slowly strafe and follow along with the Overlord until it dies. Like this Morkster guy is about to walk on top of me, but we're fine. And if he does walk on top of me, that's my fault. The damage that I take from that isn't his fault, it's my fault, right? You're in charge of keeping yourself alive, and I like to extend that responsibility to other people as well. So obviously don't kill your fellow raiders intentionally, right? Don't be like, oh, well, he should have moved, I'm just going to kill him. When you can, try to avoid that, but you need to realize the priority, right? The priority in that moment is get the brands on top of the Overlords, and anybody who's in the way, it's their fault that they're in the way, and they need to move, right? So then, right here, this is one of the worst chain sets that a Shadow Priest can have on this fight. So I'm up for the next chains 3, and all of my cooldowns just came off, right? So you can technically manage this, and I did, obviously, right? But your Void form, your PI, your Mindbender, and your Soul-Letting Ruby, everything is coming off cooldown right now. I also get the brand on me, which means this is going to be, I'm not going to do as much damage just because I'm going to be trying to avoid stuff and not hit people, etc., right? So this is one of our biggest spikes on this fight, right around 4, maybe 410, because I'm going to pop everything right here, right? I'm barely in between those 2 white circles right there too, pretty sketchy. So yeah, I pop all my cooldowns here, and then I'm going to go stand. The way we have it set up, we use a weak aura that tells people, see it says next, these 3 people, I'm Healy McKeels, right? So I'm going to grab this 3rd chain. If you're looking at the boss, we write it out where this guy's on the left, that guy's in the middle, this guy's on the right. So Lazik, Bacon, me, Nether, Spooky, and Morkster all grab this right chain, and then everyone in the middle grabs the middle chain, right? And then I have this Demonic Gateway focused with a set focus macro, so that I don't have to like reach over and click it with my mouse. I can just put my mouse over this nameplate right here. And for me, there's a key binding that you can set for interact with focus. Mine is Control-Shift-6. So anytime I need to take this gateway, I can just walk over, grab my chain, and you'll see I'm about to do it, right? So I walk over here, the chains are coming out in like 3 seconds. That's the other thing I'll mention real quick. when you're next on the chains, you need to be there immediately, because in our case at least, uh, with healing cooldowns and everything, the first chain needs to go almost as soon as it spawns. So you need to be standing by your chain immediately. And then what I was doing is I was pretty much ignoring damage until my chain was over, right? So you'll see I am hitting the boss. I take the chain, and now I'm just waiting to go. And it looks like I am still managing to get a couple spells off, but the chain is by far priority, right? So if you just have to grab your chain and just sit there and do nothing, that's preferable to grabbing your chain, trying to do more damage, and then missing your chain break or not breaking when they tell you to, etc., right? Like I said about priority, the chain is priority, right? So now we've got my Mindbender coming off cooldown in 5 seconds and Void Form coming off in 10 seconds. I think I probably used this Mindbender right here in the middle of this dance. Right there, I ran a little too far. Yeah, I do use this Mindbender. And then this is exactly what I was talking about before. These Agonizers right here, like this one has 35% HP. These guys need to die ASAP. And they're in the middle of a bunch of crap, right? So you have to hit them from range. And this is why I took Misery, was to try and help with these moments. If I just dot those and still focus on single target, then they're going to be taking extra damage from me, from my shadowy apparitions, right? But now I'm just focusing them down. We got another set of chains coming up. My Void Form has been ready this whole time, but I'm not using it because I don't want to use it during this dance. And now that the dance is over, I get out of the way of these brands, and then I pop my my Void Form, right? And I'm going to walk around this brand to dodge that pool instead of walking right into him. But then I need to get back into the raid cooldowns immediately because we got chains breaking and we have a dance going on at the same time. So now another brand comes out. This one's on me, right? But there are no ads alive. So I just take mine out into the middle of nowhere, right? I'm way out here on the edge because I don't want to be hitting anybody like these unfortunate people with my brand. So I'm going to stand way off to the side, and then we're not going to focus these ads right now, so you don't have to take the brand onto them. But then these people need to be on top of this guy immediately with the brand. Now we've got my Mindbender and my PI coming up in like 5 seconds. I pop my Fey Guardians here so that I can get increased CDR on my Void Form, because I want to save this Mindbender and this PI for my final burst with Void Form, right? So I'm going to hold on to him for the next 12 minutes or so. 12 seconds or so if I can. I'm putting Vampiric Touch on a bunch of these things. And then I'm back to 10 seconds cooldown reduction, and I pop Mindbender. And then I pop my Health Stone right there because I was about to die. And then, yeah, I pop PI, and now I pop Void Form. And this is like your final burn, you know. So, actually, the boss is going to live a bit longer, to the point where I think I get another Mindbender by the end of the fight. Just because this is where the boss should be dying within like the next maybe 30 seconds or so. But yeah, I think lining up my CDs like that is what we wanted to do. So this brand comes out on me. I just walk right in, stand on top of the Overlord. These guys need to get out if they don't want to be taking brand damage. That's up to them, not up to me. I just need to stay on this guy as much as possible, and then we move on. And now the boss is about to die. So once the boss dies, I'll pop open the log real quick just so I can show exactly when I used my different CDs. I do get another Mindbender right here with like 2% left on the boss, so it doesn't matter too much, right? And then yeah, we're just gonna finish off the boss. And bada bing, bada boom. That's Soulrender, right? Okay, so let me pull open the log real quick. This is when I've got Mindbender on top, Void Eruption in the middle, and Power Infusion on the bottom. And this is when I used all of them, right? So Mindbender, I used it on pull, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then I held it from 5 minutes till 6.5 about. And then after that, I used it on CD again, right? So I didn't lose a use over the course of the fight by holding this, because if I had moved this to 6 minutes or so, this would have come back to about 7 minutes, but then there wouldn't have been an eighth, right? So this is like, I wanted to hold this one for sure to line it up with these. And then Void Eruption was about 5 seconds, a minute 20, 245, 402 to line up with Mindbender and Power Infusion. And then I didn't have one until 5:30, and then another one at about 6:30, 6:40, right? So there's like 2 minutes between these two Void Eruptions. But again, that was to line it up with this final Mindbender and PI. Although there's a chance that no, I honestly think that that's the right way to do it, because if I hadn't held this one, no, this one's like a minute after this. Yeah, so I think this is how you want to do it, right? So then Power Infusion on pull on 2 minutes at 4 minutes, and then I hold the last Power Infusion for this this lineup again, and that's the boss, right? So hopefully this helped. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about or you wish that I would cover in these kinds of videos. I kind of just wing it. I just start watching the VOD and say whatever comes to mind. If there is something in particular though that you want to see, let me know in the comments, and I can work on putting that kind of stuff in future videos. Otherwise, if you liked the video, make sure you hit the like button. If you really liked it, make sure you subscribe. Check the description for a link to my Twitch channel. You can come hang out with all these guys, right, and watch while we're doing these boss fights. And you can, this is a good way for me to interact with you and be able to like tell you. You can ask questions one-on-one, that kind of thing, and it's really helpful. And you can also join my Discord if you'd like. There's a link in the description as well. Otherwise, that's going to be the end of the video. That's going to be the end of the video. I just rambled so hard. So I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.